Hello, beautiful people. My name is Kristen. Thank you for stopping by my channel, Enter the Book, where we are going to discuss 7 books that I just finished reading and let you know what I was thinking. Maybe these are some that you've been looking at or want to check out. It's mostly classics with a couple of fiction books at the end. So I did finish Vikram Seth's Suitable Boy. This was a group read that I was doing over with Lindy at Magpie Reads, and it is a substantial book. I think this is the biggest book I have ever read, right at 1,500 pages, like 1,498 pages. It is an epic family saga of like 4 main families with obviously dozens of characters, and the kind of overarching thread of us finding a suitable boy for one of the daughters who has become, marriage age. And so there are arranged marriages that happen. And so there's a criterion for what is a suitable boy. But this is so grippingly well written with so many other topics about the different historical happenings, the caste system, India. It is a journey entering the book into a better understanding of India. Now, this was originally written for the Indian culture. So myself as an American, there were a lot of terms or foods or holidays or things that honestly, it was a good idea to stop and Google or look into my reading group, and look at the notes about what was going on. That gave a lot more understanding and clarity to a lot of the events, a lot of the feelings that characters would have, because it was a different cultural experience than what I would have been in the same situation. So I learned a lot. It was delightful, and I don't know if I can say this well enough, but it's basically 19 sections. And for instance, the way Vikram Seth writes like the beginning and draws you into the next section, like shows you which characters this is going to be about or what kind of issue it is. At the end of the section, there's like a bookend kind of event. So if you start out with students studying math, then at the end, there's another reference to studies or education or math. So those kind of like the way that was written, where things flowed and were bookended, was particularly satisfying for me. I really, really enjoyed that, as well as there were a lot of really heavy topics, a lot of political unrest, a lot of dealing with the caste system, with how do we treat people, how do we deal with making some of these judgments and values. And sometimes some of that is actually kind of gritty and very deep into life and emotions, but then there would be great humor. There would be like these little funny things that would break it up. There would be a broken rickshaw that comes through at just a really intense moment that's just really, really humorous. So it was a really well balanced, really well written. It is an investment, but one that I can end up recommending. I really think this is a 5-star classic read. I really think it's great. I know there is talk of a Suitable Girl coming out. I may check that out. Now, I did for June on the Range. I will leave that information of that read along down below, but I read my classic westerns, Zane Grey. So I've never read Zane Grey before. This is supposedly his most famous work, Riders of the Purple Sage, and then it's followed by the sequel to that, the one that happens like the next part of the story or whatever, the Rainbow Trail. So these are the ones I read. And honestly, I don't know that I'm a Western girl. This is a story of being out in the wilderness, and it's Utah wilderness. You're dealing with the settlers the Indians, and then the Mormons, which I hadn't really expected it to have this huge kind of religious flavor, if you will. And then I think what Zane Grey is kind of having us wrestle with is, how do we impose our different cultures and our different religious viewpoints onto one another's culture? And of course, in history, the white pioneer settlers did not honor or treat the Native Americans very well. And in this case, it got even more murky with the Mormons, particularly around laws against having more than one wife. So it was interesting. There was a lot of horse shooting, running scenes, not cowboys and Indians, but pioneers, settlers, Mormons, and Indians. And so it was interesting, but I'm kind of at the end of it going, I read this, so you don't really have to. I mean, I can't say I really enjoyed it was interesting. That's the nicest thing I can say about that, y'all. That I just don't think that particular book was for me. I did, though, read another classic, the Aeneid by Virgil. This is an ancient long-term book. It did come out, I think, around 400 years after Homer's Odyssey and Iliad. It has the same characters in it, or a lot of them. It still has that up here the heavens with, Juno and all the gods, and then earth. And this one is like the Iliad in that there's a lot of battles, there's a lot of gruesome detail, there are entrails being pulled out, all that kind of stuff. And it's like the Odyssey, where it's a journey, lots of high sea adventures, lots of coming up with, sirens and all these kind of different creatures. That kind of thing is all in this book. It does go into some side stories with Dido and Circe and love and having that kind of moral dilemma, if you will. And then what I do really appreciate about it is, and why this was kind of a fun summer read, is it has what I call the Shakespearean kind of language, about whence hast thou came across thy waves on thy virtuous of the, golden rays of the sun, all this kind of that kind of beautiful poetry, storytelling that takes a little bit to get into, but then once you're in it, it's just a fun place to be. At least that's my opinion. So if you like that, if you like finding source stories, if you like going, some other myths or some other things created, this is the roots of them, this is a really fun book to read. This is also interesting in the sense that the introduction footnotes, which I read at the end, so they're not spoilery, but Virgil himself said, please destroy this when I'm dead. And here's the thing you should know. It doesn't have an ending. He didn't finish it. Like, it's a cliffhanger with no ending because he didn't like the work. He wasn't going to finish it. He wanted this one destroyed. So it is very, very pro-Rome, though. So Caesar said, I am not destroying this. It makes us look good, right? And so luckily we still have this to read and enjoy and appreciate, but it is a little unsatisfying in the sense that the story itself doesn't actually finish well. Hopefully that gives you clear indication if you want to pick that one up or not. Then I did a buddy read for another classic with Well-Traveled Books. We have read Hermann Hesse Steppenwolf. So this is a shorter novel, but it is a German-American telling of basically how we summed it up was just a middle-age crisis, very weird book. So it starts out with a small section of somebody who is telling you, hey, this person came and boarded and stayed with us and they're strange, and this middle-aged kind of man with a lot of issues, and he left this account, and then the whole back of the book is the account that was left by this middle-aged man, and he's basically feeling like he is part wolf, instinctual of the flesh, and then intellectual man, wrestling duality. And it basically reads like, this is my midlife crisis. Like, I'm trying to figure out the deeper meaning of life. How am I supposed to love, exist, find meaning? But there's this weird kind of, what I think is Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes. There's like these flashing neon light words and this Mad Men only magic theater and these mysterious characters that let you into this realm of magic boxes. And it's like, what kind of acid trip are they on? But it's philosophical. It's interesting. It's not a long, kind of heavy read, but you do have to be in that kind of mood to really enjoy the book. But I was there for it. I liked it. Not sorry that I picked it back up. I did read it in high school, but I didn't remember anything. So it was like reading it for the first time. 2 fiction books that I have read. I read Fredrik Backman's The Winners, so I know several of y'all were interested in what I thought, because I adored Beartown. I did like Us Against Them. And this one, I thought, my thoughts are, I really do like this and appreciate this and kind of 4-star it. I do think his writing is still all there. His characters and the lovability and the way he gets us to understand characters is on point and on fire and working. Just like in Beartown, you knew that there was going to be a gun pulled, major incidents, and then you were spending the rest of the book figuring out how and what that was and how it was going to go down and why. And in this one, again, it's centering on a gun shooting. We know it's going to go down. We don't know exactly how, when, who, where, why, kind of thing. And I'm not sure that fully worked, being that again. And because it was kind of revealed near the end, as opposed to it happening and then dealing with it, to me personally, I didn't feel like that was quite as satisfying ending as if they had just spent the time with those characters, massaging out the things that had happened since the first 2 books, and then kind of maybe coming up with some kind of not Norman Rockwell picturesque things, but some kind of closing philosophical whatevers, still having some of the older main characters passing on or reflecting, or these things could have been a more satisfying ending for me. But I'm not totally mad at the way this ends up, and I don't think I spoiled anything in particular. I think I'm still vague enough that if you've been in the Beartown world and you want to spend some more time there, I think this is a good way to do it. And overall, I think it's good. I think it's solid. I think it's done. I think it can rest now. Maybe there's some things that I would have preferred other ways, but this cover is beautiful. So love that. Now, I also listened to an audiobook as I did my driving the past 2 or 3 weeks, and I listened to Remarkably Bright Creatures. So this book is a beautiful, fun, very light, summery kind of book, but it also does have a couple of really kind of meaningful life lesson points to it. It is the story of an older woman, Tova, who is working as the cleaning woman at an aquarium, and she kind of befriends and enjoys the taking care of the aquarium at night, including especially this octopus, Marcellus. We do get some glimpses into his actual thinking as an intelligent creature of his own right, his viewpoints, but really it's a story of not only Tova's going through life trying to kind of deal with aging, grief. She has lost both a son and a husband, we know that right away. She's struggling with it. She's making meaning of her life. Her friends are kind of like, why are you still working? You need to just, kick back and enjoy life. But she finds meaning in these other things. And then there's other characters who are connected to the aquarium that start entering and interacting with her and Marcellus, and you get to explore their kind of struggles with where they are in life. A young man looking at how is he going to make his decisions to go forward in life and become, where he needs to be. So it's really fun. It's really heartwarming. It's a great perspective. I like when they give a touch of nature having awareness and having a voice, as well as having an older protagonist speak. So totally 5-star. So really a lot of 4 and 5 stars for me. The Western was a pretty big miss for me, but everything else was pretty enjoyable. So it's been good. I am currently working on a couple, Mammoths, Alaska by James Michener, and the 12th in the Wheel of Time. So 2 chunker books. I will finish those, hopefully finish the rest of my June TBR, and be back to review those for you shortly. What are you reading in June? Are you having any good books come up? Have you read any of these? Do you want to read any of these now that I've talked about them? Hope that you are having a great, blessed summer. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Leave me a comment below, like and subscribe. Take care, y'all.